Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, here with Kurt doing a Q&A video. Got a ton of questions on the side, but first things first, Kurt, how are you?
I'm doing good, Jason. I know we're all looking to figure out how to get our stock price to go up, but that would be a lot of people right now.
So, look, I've got 15 questions on the side, and why not, just dive into it, full guns blazing. I know the biggest questions and kind of the majority of the questions being asked, and I know we got to pick and choose kind of what we can and can't say, but I'll just read it and then you can go from
Sure,
there.
sure.
The biggest one is, Kurt, how can we defend a dollar stock price? And people, of course, constantly asking about comparables and asking about, what's this fuel, the big dream of why should Q be $1 a share or more? So I'll throw that to you, and obviously say what you can and what you can't.
Yeah, well, look, I'll try to give as concise and crisp answers as I can today to get to the point. Because some of these, we could talk about for 2 hours, but the bottom line is this. Right now we have about it, whatever we are, 16, 17 cents. We have, call it a $65 million market cap. Based upon what we're projecting, and I can't reveal, these are not they aren't projections. These are, I'll call them best guesstimates of where we think we're headed. We would be looking at, even if you took sort of the lowest number based on kind of where we're at today and to round it up a little bit, but just pick a number and say $25 million. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that would be our run rate. That any company that's in a space like ours, it's in a high trajectory of revenue growth, it's in a high trajectory business, macro business, economic climate, is going to be trading at minimum in the most conservative bear market at 5 to 6 times revenue. Okay. Well, 25 million, that's going to put us in $125 million to $150 million market cap. I can make a very strong argument that we should be at least at 8 to 10 times revenue right now, given our revenue growth trajectory, given the macroeconomic climates in India, given the macroeconomic climates of the creator economy and short form video. But forget all that. Let's just use 5 or 6. At 5 or 6, we'd have $125 to $150 million market cap today, which would be double plus where we are. What's that? It's 35-cent stock. Okay, I think if we were at 35 cents right now, we all wouldn't be doing backflips, but we at least would feel like we're getting some respect in terms of what we're building as a business. Well, we're not. I mean, the market's not treating us that way. We're getting, a little more than 2 times revenue right now for the company that's been growing at the pace we're growing. That's insanity. That's ridiculous. Okay, as I said, I could sit here and walk in and tell people why it should be 20, 30, 40, 50 times revenue and show you companies that were receiving those kinds of valuations. I'm talking about 5 to 6 times would put us at a 35-cent stock today, right now. Okay. 8 to 10 times, we'd be talking about a $200 million to $250 million valuation, which would be a 50-cent stock price. The reality is that that's what I think we should be at. If you said, Kurt, where should the stock be today? I tell you, we should be a 50-cent stock right now, based on everything that we've got, where we're at, et cetera, et cetera. So, the first thing is that we feel that we're way off target in terms of our valuation, and we're being punished unnecessarily and unmercifully for whatever reason, in terms of our market cap and our valuation and our stock price. When you talk about going forward to $1, okay, let's take a metric of where we think we're going on a revenue basis. And again, I can't provide projections today. I can't say, okay, this year we're going to do X and next year we're going to do Y. But what I can tell you is that the projections that we've got going on just a 5 to 6 times multiple going into 2023, much less an 8 to 10 times multiple in that time frame, take us into that dollar stock price valuation. So are we going to reach $1 stock price in 2022? I don't know. I mean, I don't know where the markets are going to go. I don't know if the small and micro cap area is going to start performing back in a frothier level like it was a year ago. If we were a year ago, then we were trading at more than 10 times revenue at that time. I mean, significantly more than 10 times. I haven't done the math, actually. We were probably trading at more like 40 times. Well, if we were 40 times right now, we'd have $1 billion valuation. So the point is that if you do the math on what our revenue is, and people ask a lot about the, when are the numbers going to be released, et cetera. The fact is we're going to release some numbers fairly soon here in terms of what happened in Q4. We're not going to release Q1, obviously. We're in the middle of Q1 right now. We'll look to provide some form of guidance for calendar 2022 in the not too distant future. And hopefully the market will recover and start to reward us for what those numbers represent as opposed to where it's at today.
Yeah, amazing. Appreciate you giving that kind of overview, and hopefully anyone watching appreciates that as well. And of course, the market not giving us what we think we deserve stems a lot of other questions. Oh, well, are other things happening that we don't know about? And some of those questions I also have. I guess the kind of next question is, okay, well, the market's not giving us what we think we deserve. Is there any plans to get the market to give us what we deserve? And that kind of stems into questions about, I've seen a ton from, is there any plans to do more of an institutional outreach? Is there plans for an uplisting? How does an uplisting even work? I have here on the side. Do we want to kind of tackle those on kind of the
Sure.
same?
Yeah, look, there's been, we've had a lot of discussion and online chatter about rollbacks, about uplistings, about all sorts of things. The reality is that when we were in, call it November, and we knew what we were expecting to have happen in 2022, which is what is happening in 2022, just not at a stock price level, but on a business level. When we knew where we were going to grow in 2022, we had aspirations at that point of thinking that our stock was going to be trading today, as I just said, in somewhere in the mid 30s. Okay. In the mid 30s, we were looking, you need a certain minimum price that you have to do to enter the NASDAQ market. And probably more important than what that represented is that we think that our story will resonate in the US. Okay. We're listed right now on the OTCQB. We have not spent any real significant amount of time pushing on a marketing basis our efforts in the US, and we were going to leverage the uplisting process onto NASDAQ to be pushing that forward in the present quarter. Well, none of us knew, none of us could project, in fact, there was the exact opposite, a lot of chatter in December when things continued to drift down, that it was tax loss selling, that it was this, that it was that, et cetera. And I don't think anybody, some people will say, oh yeah, we knew the market was going to correct. Well, people have been talking about market corrections for 3 years. So the point is nobody knew that January was going to have the kind of fallout that it had, even for some of the, blue chip companies that got crushed, like Facebook and others. So the fact of the matter is that January did catch us off guard from a stock market perspective, not from a business perspective, from a stock price perspective. And so that's caused us to reevaluate a lot of those plans. The issue, one of the big issues is institutions. We believe that we need to get some institutions to really follow us. Well, institutions in general are not able to trade penny stocks. You need to be at least at $1 and really dollar plus. So we've talked about, do we want to do a rollback? When's the right time to do that? We're still considering all these things. We talk about this stuff every week. Okay, we have discussions about when is the right time to do whatever the move is. Rollbacks tend to be viewed with companies that are in trouble. Well, we're not in trouble. So we want to make sure that we're in a position in the market where we're not going to be perceived as being a company in trouble. Is the market going to shift? Are we going to start to see it turn? Is that going to happen next week, next month, next quarter? If that happens and we start to get and leverage the good news that we're going to be having is on a go-forward basis, does that put us back in a position where we want to do an uplist onto NASDAQ? Okay. All of these things are discussed on a regular and ongoing basis in the company. The thing that I've said online and in the chats and the things that I've said before is keep in mind, we're all shareholders too, okay? Scott Patterson and I are large shareholders in this company who haven't sold a share. Well, we don't want to sell shares at 16 or 17 cents. That's not what the goal is, nor are we looking to sell shares next week. So we are the board, ourselves, et cetera. We have people that have been investors in this company since day one who are still there. And so we've got, we have an obligation and we have a intrinsic desire to be able to see the stock price appreciate significantly from where it is today. So any decision that's made on behalf of our shareholders is also made on behalf of ourselves. Okay, so there's no cross purpose here in terms of what anybody is wanting to do in terms of the company, and we will make those decisions in a prudent basis because we're not in a position where we're forced to do that right now. We're just not. And so we're not going to be jammed against the wall. We have to do something. We have to do a rollback. We have to try to raise money against that rollback and do a lot of things that companies are forced to do in those situations that we're not in a position to have to do, which by all current shareholders should be considered to be a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's a great overview. I mean, obviously, you guys are the biggest shareholders. You guys have the most to gain. It's nice to hear that, you guys are considering this every week. I think that's a big piece that people maybe haven't been, privy to. And of course, nice to hear you guys are thinking about strategies, when to do it, when is the market timing for it, and everything else in between. So I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing I'd add to that, Jason, is that we are becoming much more proactive in Q1 and for all of 2022. A huge agenda item for me is to be more proactive on investor outreach. And so I'm having regular calls on a weekly basis with current shareholders, with prospective sharedholders, both in Canada and the US. I may be making a trip to Europe here sometime between now and probably end of Q2 to speak to shareholders in the UK and other places in Europe like Denmark where we have support. So, this is a really important thing for us, and it feels a little bit like we're sailing into a hurricane right now because there's so many companies out there that it feels like no matter what you say, your stock doesn't move. But nevertheless, we've got to introduce the story to people who are unfamiliar with it. So that's a big priority for us this year.
Yeah, awesome. Well, look, I think that's a great answer to those questions and more than people probably even expected. So appreciate that.